What up, what up, what up? I got my boom plays, streamers, and sleepers for week 4 coming at you right now. The vibes are good, the shirt's loud, and the mic is plugged in this week. So let me get into my first boom play for week 4. It is Khalil Shakir to have a monster game against the Ravens. Now, Josh Allen has a perfect passer rating when targeting him. He's catching literally everything coming his way, 100% catch rate. And he's the only wide receiver right now on the Buffalo Bills roster that has over 100 yards. So obviously, he's Josh Allen's most trusted wide receiver. And I love this matchup against this Ravens defense, who are running a ton of zone coverage. And right now, Khalil Shakir is a top 5 slot wide receiver versus zone coverage, so he should be eating on Sunday night. Now for another boom play, I have Rome Odunze going up against my Rams. Yes, this secondary is terrible. You saw what Jawan Jennings did. Let's run it back for another boom play. If you have any questions about a Deontay Johnson who's dealing with a groin injury, if you have any questions about Garrett Wilson's production, and you have Rome Odunze, I will be sliding him into starting positions, man. I know it's kind of hard to understand about sitting guys like Garrett Wilson or Michael Pittman, but man, Rome Odunze has the juicy matchup against his Rams secondary that is horrendous. Horrible. They struggle against the deep ball, and right now, Rome Odunze's top 6 right now among wide receivers in air yards, so therefore, I know Caleb Williams is going to go out there and air it out when he has the opportunity. Rome Odunze is an electric player, man, and I think he smashes this week as a boom play for week 4. Now to get into a streaming option for week 4, and it's a tight end, Mike Gesicki, man. Listen, this is a matchup where I think he could really show up and show out. The Bengals last week looked amazing with T. Higgins back into the lineup. I know he's healthy, and I know you're wondering, man, his target share is going to drop down, but a 13% target share from Mike Gesicki last week is pretty good in my opinion, where I think his productivity isn't just going to fade away. He looked really good in the 2 weeks that T. Higgins wasn't there, so therefore I think Mike Gesicki is the best tight end that Joe Burrow has had in his entire career. Going up against this Panthers defense as well, who's allowing the second most fantasy points per game to tight ends. Yeah, you can sign me up for a guy who has a name, who has a jersey, who's a professional football player, and has cleats and going to be on the field, because man, there's not many options out there at the tight end position. Now to get into my fantasy sleepers for week 4. I got Tony Pollard going up against this Miami Dolphins defense. And listen, I know last week was real nasty work. Only 5 fantasy points, but a lot is to blame Will Levis with the turnovers, because when there's turnovers, there's less opportunities for the running backs to really get on the field to show some productivity. And look, Will Levis, hand the ball off this week to Tony Pollard or Tajay Spears, whoever. But man, going up against this Dolphins defense, they're allowing the second most fantasy points per game and rushing touchdowns to running backs this season. And we saw Zach Charbonnet and James Cook put up 25 plus fantasy points on this same defense. Hopefully Tony Pollard could show up and show out, but he is my sleeper for week 4 for Monday Night Football. Next up, my next sleeper is Chuba Hubbard, man. Show up and showed out last week being a top 5 fantasy running back. And I think he could do it again going up against this Bengals defense, who have allowed 100 yards in each of their last 3 games to running backs. And Chuba Hubbard was very efficient and productive with his opportunities. Looked good in the passing game in these last 2 weeks as well, with 10 targets, which is 4th most among running backs. And now listen, shout out to this Panthers O-line stepping up and run blocking, because listen, the Panthers had the highest rushing yards over expected last week. And that's a big upgrade with Andy Dalton now as the QB starter, where we can get play action going, where the defense is going to have to respect Andy Dalton. And this opens up a lot of things for Chuba Hubbard on the ground. So you can sign me up for somebody who's just as explosive in the last 2 weeks as an Alvin Kamara, as a Brian Robinson Jr. You got these guys who are explosive, and you need to have them in your starting lineups, because he's probably still on the waiver wire, people. So he's a sleeper for week 4 for your boy. So this wraps up another great episode of RotoBaller Fantasy Sports YouTube channel. Please make sure you guys like and subscribe. Leave a comment below if you're starting sit questions. I'll try to answer them all the way up until game time. You guys can follow me at Real Deal Fantasy on all social media platforms. Until next time.